How is it that so many people cook seafood so poorly? Especially scallops and shrimp. I mean, I'd like to whack them on the back of the knuckles even before their seafood hits the pan. It's that bad. It's even more amazing to me because cooking them correctly is even easier than cooking them badly. So if you're one of those people whose mouth waters when you see those pictures of golden brown sea scallops and plump juicy shrimp on the cover of those cooking magazines, stick around. I'm going to show you just how they do it. I'll break down my tips into two categories, buying and cooking. And since you'll be buying before you'll be cooking, let's start there first. So, scallops. Scallops come from the water, I get that, but water isn't their friend when you're searing them. Look for what are called dry packed scallops. We typically have them at Nino's. They're packaged with all those briny juices. So as a result, when they're cooked, they have a more meaty scallop flavor and they'll brown much better, which not only gives you color, but gives you even more flavor. Now, if you can't find dry packed scallops, then just be sure you pat them extra well with some paper towel before you cook them. And this tip applies to both C, the large scallops, and bay, the small scallops. For shrimp, well, most come to the U.S. markets frozen. But if you're lucky enough to be able to buy fresh shrimp, absolutely do so at all costs. You'll find them more flavorful and more moist. When buying shrimp otherwise, my tips are not to buy the huge ones, meaning the U6s or under 6 per pound. They're huge. Or to buy the small ones, under 30 per pound, unless you're adding them to a casserole or a salad. Why? Well, these huge shrimp tend to be a little bit more on the tough side, and the small ones are too easily overcooked. I recommend the 16 to 20 counts, which are this size right here, they're just about perfect, or the 21 to 25 counts per pound, which are fine too. Okay, quick lesson on how to peel and devein a shrimp. This has a full shell on it and the vein inside. I'm going to reach underneath, grab the little legs, go in a circle until it completely comes off. Do the same thing down to the last segment. I want to leave that last segment on, and that'll give it a nice presentation. So it's completely shelled now. I'm going to take my paring knife, just cut down the center, only about 1/4 of an inch, and take out this vein, which will come out in one piece. Rinse it under water, and we have a peeled and deveined shrimp. When it comes to cooking, I'm going to focus on the most popular method of cooking scallops and shrimp, and that would be pan searing. Shrimp and bay scallops can be seasoned by tossing them in a little bit of granulated garlic, some fine sea salt, and some freshly ground black pepper before searing them. Avoid using iodized salt. It gives it a flavor that is just unpleasant.
Sea scallops, the big guys, are a little different. Place the seasonings on the tops and the bottoms only. And, oh, by the way, you can be a bit more generous. They're bigger. Another benefit of a bit more salt is it'll actually help to crust the surface up a little bit better, just like the pictures you see in those magazines.
A very little bit of oil, please. I prefer a neutral oil, like canola or peanut, and lots of heat. Medium to medium-high heat. You'll only get color in its resulting flavor with high heat. So once again, preheat the pan until it's very hot, then add a tablespoon or so of oil, then add your scallops and shrimp. Don't crowd the pan with food. Place each piece an inch apart or so that the resulting steam goes into the air instead of making a bubbly sauce around the scallops or the shrimp. If you see that happening, either the temperature is too low or your food is too crowded, or both. Either way, there's no fixing this outcome. Take your lumps and live to cook another day. Next time, more heat and more space. Pan searing is a bit different from sautéing in that you're not going to toss the product around in the pan. The French word sauté actually translates to jump, because when you're creating air between the food and the pan, you're not creating heat, color, or flavor. When it comes to scallops and shrimp, keep your seafood touching the pan, then use a pair of tongs to turn your scallops over and your shrimp over when they're done. My last tip is by far the most important tip because the majority of seafood on this planet is overcooked, and not just a little. If your pan is hot enough, it should only take a minute on each side for your shrimp and about 2 minutes on each side for your sea scallops to develop a nice golden brown surface. And I'm not joking. Okay, let's add a bonus feature here. I'm going to show you how to make a simple sauce for this. Basically, we're going to take our scallops, in this case, off of the pan and hold them separately. We have a little bit of what we call fond here. It's some brown little particles. We're going to deglaze that with a little wine. You can use white wine. I have some Marsala here. And that's going to add a nice flavor as well as a little color. We're going to put a little cream in, not much. You can use half and half if you want and add a little bit of cornstarch to it, which will do about the same thing. Now you notice I'm not cooking the scallops in the sauce. That tends to make them shrivel up and they're like little ball bearings and they're really, really chewy. You don't want that at all. So I'm gonna make the sauce separately. We're gonna add a little bit of cracked pepper on top, a pinch of salt, again, sea salt, not much, just a little. And you can see it's already turned into a nice glaze. We're gonna place our scallops on our plate and pour the sauce over the top. That way you get nice, moist, plump scallops, and you're gonna get a nice sauce with it that actually has some scallop flavor. There are, of course, other ways to cook both scallops and shrimp. The most common being broiling, grilling, and in the case of sea scallops and shrimp anyway, deep fat frying. They too have their secrets of their own, but many of these tips I've shown you today also apply to those methods. Again, the most important being what to buy and what not to do, which is what? Not to overcook them. Give these tips a simple road test and let me know how you fared. For more information on shrimp and seafood, there are a couple of other additional guides I'd like to tell you about. They are Nino's Shellfish Primer and Nino's Shrimp Guide entitled Who You Calling a Shrimp? Both of which you can find on Nino's brand new website at www.ninosalvaggio.com, or you can pick either of them up in our seafood department the next time you stop into Nino's. I'm Pete Lauren, Director of Culinary Development at, well, you know, Nino's. Hey, lucky me, I'm heading out to Boston later this week for the Seafood Expo of North America. So you want to be sure to check out Nino's Facebook page where I'll be sending updates, or my blog in late March where I'll give you a rundown of the latest seafood trends. Till then, remember, every seafood I see, I love. I gotta check this out. I can't let a piece of shrimp disappear.